Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, I'll come back so long as Larry isn't there. Want me to knock? You should do it too. You better open this dang door. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I'll come back so long as Larry isn't there. Got permission to share this from my buddy who is a software engineer. Background. To give you some background on my friend Tim, made up name, he has been programming since he was like 7 years old. Tim said by the time he got to college he breezed through most of his comp sci classes because a lot of the content they were covering he had already mastered years prior. Tim is an excellent programmer. Tim's career has been quite successful. He's worked for Google, Facebook, Amazon, and finally a hedge fund. The story starts at the hedge fund. Tim works a lot with AI technology, and at this hedge fund he was the lead programmer manager who spearheaded an effort to optimize their AI that helped them complete literally millions of trades a day. To say his work had a massive impact was an understatement. All of this is going on with COVID-19 in the background. Due to COVID-19 they went to a work-from-home model, where my friend Tim kept working. During the work-from-home, Tim was looking around his fancy $4,500 NYC apartment and wished for things like a yard, a heated pool, a nice 3-car garage, and not living in a high-rise. It dawned on Tim that he could leave NYC. Tim moves to Michigan. So Tim moved back to his hometown in Michigan, where he bought himself a really nice home with a heated pool, a 3-car garage, a nice yard, and guess what the yard had in it? A mother-in-law suite, which was essentially a 2-bedroom, 1-bath second home on the property of his main home, which he turned into his man cave. It's actually pretty sick. Oh yeah, and his mortgage payment was far less than his $4.5K a month rent. Like half. Tim spent the rest of his COVID-19 work from home pounding out projects, etc. He never actually informed his employer on an official basis he moved, he just kept working. Then COVID-19 ended. COVID-19 is finally over, back to the office, or? Tim boss, Larry calls him up and goes, "Alright Tim, on Monday we are starting work back at the office," and Tim goes, "Yeah, about that I moved to Michigan." Larry is shocked and goes, "You didn't even ask if you could do that," and Tim basically said, "I didn't know I needed your permission to move," in a sarcastic way. Larry insists that Tim needs to move back to NYC, or he won't have a place on the team. Tim says he's been doing the exact same work from home at a high level for the past year. He's willing to travel to NYC for a few meetings a year on his own dime, but he feels his quality of life is so much higher outside of NYC he has no desire to live in NYC, to which Larry said if Tim doesn't have any desire to live in NYC then he has no desire to keep Tim employed. Now dear Reddit, what do you think a talented senior programmer with over a decade of experience, who specializes in AI technology, is going to say to a response like that? If you're thinking he quit, you'd be absolutely right, he quit. Maintaining complex code can be hard. Now anyone that has done any programming knows that sometimes the best person to maintain the code is the person who wrote the code. There's logic, there's thought processes, there's so much that goes into programming that can be so individualistic it can be hard for someone to take over a codebase they didn't write. John, CEO, enters the picture. 6 weeks goes by when John calls Tim. John is the CEO of the hedge fund. John gets Tim to agree to consider coming back, so that's when John suggests they fly Tim to NYC and he sits down with John. Tim, however, flipped the switch and said, "No, how about you fly out to Michigan and we discuss this?" Tim said that because he wanted to establish if he was going to come back, it was going to be him, working from Michigan, and if he was going to talk his employment it was going to be done in Michigan. John agreed, and 2 days later flew out to meet with Tim. Tim sits down and John says they really need him, because he provided a lot of value to the organization and the programming team is struggling. John offers Tim the opportunity to come back with a 20% pay cut, since he won't be living in NYC, and John called that a cost of living adjustment. To which John said, "No, I want a 15% raise above what I was earning." John sits back and responds, "The reason we pay what we pay is because we ask you to live in NYC and we understand that's an expensive city to live in." To which Tim says, "You pay what you pay, and you pay it because I am worth it. If I wasn't worth what you pay, you wouldn't be paying me. Now my first condition is, if you want me back, it'll be a 15% raise." John goes, "And second?" "The second condition is I'll come back so long as Larry isn't there." John sighs, "You're asking for too much." To which Tim goes, "You don't need to bring me back if you don't want to. I'll be fine elsewhere." John goes, "I'll talk to the partners." Tim says, "My offer is good till Friday." John goes, "What do you mean?" Tim says, "Next Monday is when I'm going to start looking for work. This offer is good until Friday." It was Tuesday. John leaves. That Thursday the phone rings. It's John. In conclusion, Tim, we are transferring Larry to a different fund. He won't be working with you anymore, and we are fine with giving you a 15% raise. Can we send you an offer letter for you to sign? Tim said, "Of course." "And Larry is really gone?" John goes, "Yes, you will never need to interact with Larry ever again." That was at the start of this year. Tim hasn't been in NYC, hasn't heard from Larry, hasn't seen Larry on any communications, etc. Want me to knock? You should do it too. Back in high school, I had a teacher that was a racist, bigoted piece of work. She previously called a friend of mine the N-word and got away with it, and this woman seemed to have total immunity. She wasn't treating everybody equally. She had a soft spot for white kids and quite lenient with them, and was breathing down the necks of non-white kids, to the point where she'd follow them to the toilets and stand by the toilet door waiting for them to finish their business if they excused themselves, and none of the black or brown kids were allowed to take their phones with them when they go out. On the first period I had her, I walked in a little later after my friends who just walked in normally, and she didn't comment on anything. When I came in, she kicked me out of the class and demanded that I knock on the door before I enter, and that was proper manners. I was pissed, so I made it a habit to go out of her class and go back in and bang on the door and keep banging until she opens the door for me. Sometimes she'd come a little late and I'd look her dead in the eye and tell her, "You didn't knock before entering. That isn't proper manners." To which she will go out again, knock on the door, and wait for me to key her in. Edit 1. To clarify, why wasn't she reprimanded or fired after the repeated racial profiling? The teacher taught 2 languages, so the teacher was getting off the hook because the school can't afford to fire her and bring 2 teachers to replace her, especially when the school was constantly low on funds. Edit 2. Few more points. The teacher wasn't chanting the N-word out loud, she muttered it under her breath, and my friend heard it, and in the eyes of the administration it's his word against hers. He told me the N-word story and I believed him simply because of her constant crap that she pulls against non-white students. Also, with the knocking story, I looked her in the eyes and told her, "Why didn't you knock? I thought it was bad manners." To which she responded with the most patronizing manner and got out, knocked, and sarcastically asked to come in, to which I responded by yes. I didn't mention that earlier simply because I like to think of it as a win that she did that at all and not outright ignored me. You better open this dang door. This happened back in the day, at your local Arizona convenience store. Strange things were definitely afoot here this night. Just after sunset, it's literally like I Am Legend, where all the infected beer run specialists show up. They get pretty cocky, and many think they're slick, but over time I've learned their patterns in order to prevent major loss. This kid comes in the side door. We are shaped like a golden rectangle and have a left and right side door. He walks the joint, eyeballs the place, sees the human-sized stack of 18 packs of cerveza, then lights up. I'll stop here to tell you that, for safety's sake, our doors lock with a button under the counter. Important info. He asks me if he could look at cigarettes that are behind me, then starts to mention the higher-up ones. I thought this guy may bolt, so I locked the doors, turn around and hear a suspicion-confirming thud that reverberated through the happiest parts of my soul. As this man staggers up with a miraculously unscathed 18-pack, he looks at me in at first panic, then anger as the realization sets in. Now I'm probably looking panicked, because I didn't initially have a plan past here. Just as I'm about to say something, the man realizes he's still holding beer and winds up to run at the doors. Smack! He runs again while saying, "You better open this dang door." Enter malicious compliance. You want me to open the door? I'll open it. I'll open it straight to hell. He makes one last charge, and I press the button to unlock the doors last second. I knew he'd get sent flying, but he flew through this, tumbled so gloriously, better than I could have planned for. The doors flew open as he literally somersaulted, and that 18-pack busted open in a spiral of cans. He stumbled, bumbled, fumbled around grabbing the cans that didn't go off into their own little spiral, spraying everywhere. All this for a few cans of generic. Again, like I Am Legend, and its book to movie adaptation, it's unclear whether I'm the good guy or not. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.